From the Headline News Network, this is Newswatch.
Another round of arms talks with the Soviets begins in Geneva Thursday. Chief U.S. negotiator Max Kampelman was named a State Department counselor today before leaving. The U.S. ambassador to Israel has assured officials in that country that the White House did not mean to blame them for the U.S. arms sales to Iran when the White House released a memo last week that originally authorized the sales. Edward Dupree, governor of Rhode Island, today offered a $10,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of a mysterious sniper who's been shooting at people in the state since December 8th. For Newswatch, I'm Don Rooney. Now this.
For the Headline News Network 24 hours a day, call your cable operator. From the Headline News Network, this is Newswatch.
Headline News, I'm David Goodnow. President Reagan has said he didn't know. Robert McFarland says he did indeed. Tonight, NBC News is reporting former National Security Advisor Robert McFarland says he took part in a plan to conceal the president's approval of a 1985 Israeli arms shipment to Iran. At his November 19th news conference, Mr. Reagan told the public he had nothing to do with the shipment. McFarland told NBC the plan was agreed upon shortly before that news conference in order to distance the president from the affair. Those who took part in the scheme, says McFarland, included John Poindexter and Oliver North. A source close to McFarland confirms the story. David Durenberger, the former chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, reportedly did some editing of his panel's draft report on the Iran affair. Linda Tyra tells us what may be missing and why.
Although the Senate Intelligence Committee voted last week not to release a draft report of its investigation, news leaks continue. According to the Washington Post, conclusions were dropped from the committee's draft report which would have suggested the administration violated the law. The Post says some of the conclusions were that the administration failed to notify congressional intelligence committees in a timely fashion of the Iran arms deal. That unless the CIA was in charge, the president was supposed to formally designate the National Security Council in charge of the secret operation. And that the CIA failed to adequately analyze Israel's motive in the arms deal and to adequately monitor the operation. The Post reports the conclusions were dropped at the suggestion of former Chairman David Durenberger. The Minnesota Republican could not be reached for comment, but the new Democratic chairman and the ranking Republican on the committee defended him.
Those reports are not fair to the senator from Minnesota. I think there was simply a desire to be cautious, as those from the executive branch were suggesting deletion of certain materials that they not be included in a report that might be released to the public.
Senator Durenberger was only responding to questions and objections to people like myself against releasing a very lengthy set of conclusions upon which there was no agreement.
The Intelligence Committee vice chairman said he still hopes a summary of the panel's yet unfinished final report can be made public. But Senator Cohen criticized the White House for turning foreign policy into what he called a private operation, saying the president drove foreign policy underground. Linda Tyra, CNN, Capitol Hill.
That 6-year war between Iran and Iraq is escalating in the Persian Gulf. Iraq says with today's attacks it has regained much of the territory lost in its recent renewed fighting with Iran. But Iran says it has gained a foothold in Iraq, killing or wounding more than 16,000 soldiers. Anglican envoy Terry Waite says he'll never offer arms or money in exchange for hostages, but he is renewing his efforts to free the captives in Lebanon. He's going to be returning to Beirut. Burton Jones reports.
Anglican envoy Terry Waite has returned once again to Beirut to resume efforts aimed at freeing Americans and others held hostage in Lebanon. Waite left London on the first flight to Beirut International Airport since last week when a mortar barrage blew up an empty Middle East Airlines jetliner while it was refueling. Waite has been trying to return to Beirut since before Christmas, but his trip was delayed repeatedly because of fighting between Shiite Muslims and Palestinians in the area between the airport and the city. Since Waite began talking with the Iranian-backed terrorists in 1985, 3 Americans have been released, the latest being David Jacobson last November.
For the Headline News Network 24 hours a day, call your cable operator.